The police cruiser's engine is still running. Officer Mendez has his hand on Sarah's shoulder, not rough, but firm. "Ma'am, your mother is pressing charges. Obstruction of—" "She's insane," Sarah says. Her voice cracks. "Tell him, Mom. Tell him you're confused." Heidi Wilkins is 67. Her hands are shaking, but not from fear. From rage so compressed, it's turned into something crystalline and cold. She pulls a crumpled envelope from her purse. Real Wells Fargo paper. The kind with the watermark you can only see when you hold it up to light, and slaps it on the hood of the car. "Read it," Heidi says. Sarah doesn't move. Her jaw is locked. So Heidi does something that will make the neighbors talk for months. She slaps her daughter. Open palm. Across the face. The sound is ugly. Rid. It. Sarah's hands are trembling now too as she unfolds the paper. Her eyes scan, then rescan. Her face goes from red to white in under 3 seconds. This isn't possible. Officer Mendez leans in. "What's it say?" "Zero." Sarah's voice is a whisper. "The account balance is 0. Here's the thing about lies. The good ones don't collapse all at once. They fall apart in slow motion, like a building where someone's been stealing the copper wiring for years. You don't notice until you flip the switch and nothing happens. Carlton Wilkins died on a Tuesday, heart attack. Clean. The kind of death people call a blessing because he didn't suffer. Heidi had been married to him for 42 years, loved him, trusted him, believed every word he said about their retirement fund, the diversified portfolio, the rainy day accounts he managed with the precision of a man who'd worked in aerospace engineering his whole life. She believed him right up until the moment she went to the mailbox. Not the one on the porch. Carlton always grabbed that mail before she woke up. No. The big community box at the end of the street. The one with their unit number stamped on it. The one she hadn't opened in... Wait, how long had it been? The key stuck. Rust. When she finally yanked the metal door open, paper exploded out like confetti. Red letters. Final notice. Account closed. Legal action pending. Her knees hit the sidewalk. The asphalt was hot. It burned through her stockings. The asphalt left a grit pattern on her skin that she'd scrub at later with a washcloth until it bled. But right now, sitting there with red envelopes scattered around her like leaves, Heidi couldn't move. Her brain was doing that thing where it tries to rewrite reality in real time. Maybe these are for a different Wilkins family. Maybe Carlton already handled this and forgot to tell me. Maybe I'm having a stroke. She stuffed the papers into her purse. No, that's wrong. They didn't fit, so she cradled them against her chest like firewood and walked back to the house. Her house? Except the mortgage statement in the pile said it wasn't. Hadn't been for 6 months. Sarah arrived an hour later. She had a key which annoyed Heidi even now, even with the world ending, because Sarah always just walked in without knocking, like the house was still hers even though she'd moved out in 2008. "Mom, why are you sitting in the dark?" Heidi pointed at the dining room table. She'd spread the papers out like evidence at a crime scene. Chronological order. Oldest debts on the left, newest on the right. Sarah's heels clicked across the hardwood. Designer. Probably cost more than Heidi spent on groceries in a month. She picked up the first page. a credit card statement from Chase and laughed. Actually laughed. Mom, come on, this is a scam. These are phishing letters. Dad showed me how they work. They make them look official to scare old people into... Your father is dead. I know that. Sarah's voice got sharp. Which is exactly why scammers are targeting you right now. They scrape obituaries. It's disgusting, but it's not real. Heidi stood up. Her chair scraped. Then explain the mortgage. What mortgage? We own this house. Dad paid it off in 2019. I was here when he got the letter. We had champagne. You had champagne. I had ginger ale because I was on antibiotics. Heidi's memory was surgical about details like that. And that letter was fake. Sarah's face did something weird, a micro-expression, like she was about to agree, then didn't. You're not thinking clearly. Grief does that. Let me call the bank and sort this out. I already called. And? They hung up on me. Said the account was flagged for fraud, and I needed to come in person with 2 forms of ID and Carlton's death certificate. Sarah set the paper down, smoothed it with her palm like she could iron out the words. Okay, fine. We'll go Monday. We'll prove this is a clerical error, and then we're suing them for emotional distress. Dad had friends at Wells Fargo. This is unacceptable. We're going now. It's Saturday, Mom. Banks are... The branch on Coleman stays open until 6 on Saturdays. Heidi grabbed her purse. I checked. Sarah didn't move. Her jaw was doing that thing it used to do when she was 16 and caught in a lie. That little muscle twitch. Mom, I really think we should wait until you're calmer. Get in the car, Sarah. No. That's when Heidi knew. Not suspected. Knew. Her daughter wasn't in denial. She was in on it. That jaw twitch was the same one Carlton used to get when he was hiding something. Heidi had seen it 1,000 times. When he'd gambled their vacation fund on a sure thing stock tip, when he'd co-signed for his brother's restaurant loan, when he'd sworn the dent in the Buick was from a shopping cart. She'd ignored it every time. Not anymore. You knew, Heidi said. Not a question, a diagnosis. Mom, I don't know what you're... Sit down. Sarah sat, but her purse stayed on her shoulder. Escape position. Heidi went to the basement door, opened it. The smell hit her first, ink and machine oil, and the particular mustiness of a space that's been locked off from the rest of the house. Carlton's office. He'd installed a deadbolt on it 3 years ago. Said he needed privacy for conference calls with overseas clients. Except Carlton had been retired for 8 years. She flipped the light switch. The fluorescent tubes buzzed to life, and there it was, the printer. Not a printer. An industrial Epson SureColor, the kind print shops use for high-volume jobs. It sat on a workbench surrounded by guillotine paper cutters, boxes of cardstock in 6 different weights, and a jeweler's loop. Sarah appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Oh, my God. You've never been down here? Dad said it was boring financial stuff. Spreadsheets and... Sarah stopped, walked to the printer, touched it like it might bite her. This is a $20,000 machine. Heidi opened the file cabinet. Manila folders, organized by year. She pulled one labeled 2023 Statements. Inside were 3 versions of the same Wells Fargo document. The drafts showed Carlton's process. First attempt had the routing number wrong. Second attempt had the font slightly off, Arial instead of Helvetica. Third attempt was perfect, Watermark and all. "He made them," Sarah whispered. "He made all of them." Heidi kept digging. Found the envelope templates. The ones with the Wells Fargo logo printed at such high resolution you'd need a microscope to spot the difference. Found the X-Acto knife with dried glue on the handle. Carlton used it to slice open real bank envelopes so he could study the glue pattern, then recreate it. In the corner there was a light box, the kind graphic designers use. Next to it a stack of authentic Wells Fargo envelopes, maybe 50 of them, steamed open, meticulously emptied, ready to be refilled with Carlton's fiction. Sarah sat down on the concrete floor. Her skirt rode up. She didn't fix it. "Every Tuesday," she said. "He'd come down here after dinner and print the new statements. I thought he was doing taxes." "Every Tuesday for how long?" "I don't know, 10 years? More?" Sarah's voice was hollow. "He'd bring them upstairs in his briefcase. You'd make him coffee. He'd walk you through the portfolio performance like he was some kind of financial advisor." Heidi found the ledger. Real numbers. Carlton's handwriting. Account balance in 2012, $847,000. Account balance in 2024, $340,000. He hadn't lost the money. He'd spent it, and then spent another decade pretending it was still there. Carlton's handwriting was the worst part. That careful engineer's print. Block letters, perfectly spaced, turned the ledger into a confession written in the language of a man who thought precision could excuse anything. Negative $340,000. He'd written it like a lab result. Heidi closed the book. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. That scared her more than the shaking had. "When did you figure it out?" she asked Sarah. "I didn't. I swear When?" Sarah pulled her knees to her chest. 38 years old, and suddenly she looked 12. "After the funeral. You asked me to go through his files for the estate lawyer, and I found a Venmo receipt on his phone. $500 to someone named Lucky's Cashier Window. I Googled it. It's at the Grayton Casino. And you didn't tell me. I thought it was one transaction. I thought maybe he'd had a bad night and was embarrassed. Dad wasn't. He wasn't a gambler, Mom. He wore the same shoes for 6 years. He clipped coupons." Heidi walked to the printer, ran her hand along the top. Still warm. Wait. That couldn't be right. Carlton had been dead for 2 weeks. She opened the paper tray. Empty. Checked the ink cartridges. All dry. The machine's display screen showed the last print job, September 14th, 2024. The day before, Carlton died. He'd printed her October statement a month early. The Tuesday after the funeral, Heidi had waited. It was habit by then. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m., Carlton would spread the statements across the kitchen table and walk her through the numbers. "Up 3% this quarter, honey. The tech stocks are carrying us." She'd make him decaf. He'd point at bar graphs he'd generated in Excel. She'd nod and pretend she understood the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k. That first Tuesday without him, she'd sat at the table anyway, made coffee for no one, waited for a ghost. The second Tuesday, she went to the basement, stood outside the locked door with her hand on the knob. Didn't go in. Couldn't. The silence on the other side was too big. The third Tuesday, she found the spare key taped under the water heater. Opened the door. The printer sat there like a tombstone. She'd touched it then, too, same way she was touching it now, and known something was wrong. Not wrong like he made a mistake. Wrong like he built a second world and lived in it. Sarah was crying, quiet crying. The kind where you're trying not to make it about you but failing. What do? We go to the bank. And tell them what? That Dad was a forger? Mom, they could go after the estate. We could lose everything. We already lost everything, Heidi said. 2 weeks ago. We just didn't know it yet. She picked up one of the fake statements, held it up to the light. The watermark looked perfect. Carlton had been good at this, better than he'd ever been at telling the truth. The truth had a texture. That's what Heidi kept thinking as she held the fake statement. Carlton's forgeries were printed on 32-pound paper, premium stock, the kind that felt substantial between your fingers. He'd understood that lies needed weight to be believable. The real truth was lighter, flimsier, cheaper. She found that out when she finally opened the street mailbox. Sarah had gone home, too overwhelmed, she'd said, though Heidi suspected she just couldn't stand being in the basement anymore. Fine. Heidi needed to do this alone anyway. She walked the 3 blocks to the cluster mailbox unit at the corner of Elmwood and 5th, key ring jangling in her coat pocket. The key didn't want to turn. Rust had fused the lock mechanism into something closer to sculpture than hardware. She had to use both hands, twisting until her palms burned and the metal finally gave way with a sound like a bone breaking. The door swung open and paper avalanched out. Onto her shoes, onto the sidewalk, onto the gutter where it mixed with decomposing leaves and last week's rain. Red envelopes, dozens of them. Some were so waterlogged the ink had bled through, turning the final notice warnings into abstract art. Others were pristine, recent arrivals that hadn't had time to rot yet. She knelt down and started gathering them, sorting by sender. Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, Discover, American Express, Capital One. A woman walking her dog stopped. "You need help, honey?" Heidi looked up. The woman was younger, maybe 50. She had kind eyes and shoes that cost more than Heidi's car payment. Used to cost more. Before Heidi learned she didn't actually have a car anymore, the Buick's title was in default. "I'm fine," Heidi said. She wasn't fine. She was sitting on a curb holding 37 collection notices while a stranger's poodle sniffed at an envelope from a debt consolidation company promising they could save her future. What future? Back at the house, she spread everything on the dining room table. Same table where Carlton had performed his Tuesday night magic show. She organized the notices by severity. Stern warnings on the left, legal threats in the middle, court summons on the right. There were 3 court summons. One was dated 6 days ago. Her phone rang, Sarah's name on the screen. "Mom, I've been thinking, we should hire a lawyer before we go to the bank, someone who specializes in estate fraud. I found a firm in San Jose that, how much money do you think we have for a lawyer?" Silence. Then, "I can pay. I have savings." "Do you?" Heidi picked up an envelope from Capital One. The balance was $67,142. Just one card. Carlton had 12. "How much are you in for?" "What?" "You said you thought it was one transaction at the casino, which means you looked for more. How many did you find?" More silence, longer this time. "Sarah, how much did your father borrow from you?" $80,000, Sarah whispered. Over 3 years. He said it was bridge loans. Said the market was temporarily down and he didn't want to liquidate at a loss. Heidi started laughing. Couldn't help it. The sound that came out was sharp enough to cut glass. Glass would have been cleaner than the sound coming out of Heidi's mouth. This was something animal, hysterical in the clinical sense, the kind of laugh that means your brain is trying to reboot and failing. Mom, stop. Please stop. But Heidi couldn't. $80,000. Sarah had given him $80,000 and never mentioned it. Not at the funeral. Not when they were planning the service. Not when Heidi was writing thank you cards to people who'd sent casseroles and called Carlton a good man. I'm coming over, Sarah said. Don't. She came anyway. 20 minutes later, she was standing in the dining room staring at the table like it was a car accident. Picked up the court summons, put it down. Picked up a credit card statement, put it down. Her hands were doing that hummingbird thing where they can't land anywhere. This is wrong, Sarah said finally. These numbers are wrong. They're extremely right. No, Mom, listen to me. Dad kept records, actual records. I saw them. He had spreadsheets going back to 2010. Every deposit, every withdrawal. The account had $1.2 million as of last month. Heidi pointed at the basement door. Those spreadsheets came from the printer down there, same as the bank statements. But I verified them. Sarah pulled out her phone, started typing. I can log into the account right now and show you. Dad gave me the password 2 years ago in case something happened to him. Something did happen to him. Just give me a second. Sarah's thumbs moved across the screen. She pulled up a website, typed in a username, typed in a password, Heidi 1954, her birth year. Of course, Carlton would use that. Made the lie feel romantic. The page loaded. Account summary appeared. Checking account, 47,332 or 18. Savings account, 441. Investment portfolio, 512,988. 44. Total assets, 247, 61, 71. Sarah turned the screen toward Heidi like it was evidence at trial. See, it's all there. The bank made a mistake. They probably mixed us up with another Wilkins family. Heidi took the phone, looked at the URL, Wells Fargo Secure Login Portal.com, not wellsfargo.com, an extra word, an extra hyphen. Click Contact Us, Heidi said. What? At the bottom, click it. Sarah clicked. The page loaded. It showed a phone number, 800-555-47. A San Francisco address, 420 Montgomery Street, Suite 1800. Heidi went to her laptop, Googled Wells Fargo headquarters address. The real address was 420 Montgomery Street, but the suite number was different. She Googled the phone number. It came back as number not in service. He built a fake website, Heidi said. Your father built an entire fake website. That's insane. You can't just... People would notice. The bank would shut it down. It's not indexed by search engines. Look. Heidi tried to Google the URL. Nothing came up. You can only access it if you have the exact address. He probably hosted it on some private server, maybe offshore. Sarah sat down, stood up, sat down again. No, I've been logging into this site for 2 years. I've checked the balances. I've downloaded statements. Downloaded fake statements? I would have noticed. You didn't want to notice, Heidi said. Neither did I. Wanting not to notice was different from conspiracy. That's what Sarah kept saying in the car. She'd insisted they go to the lawyer anyway, the one in San Jose she'd found, a guy named Philip Rossner who specialized in bank fraud and had a website with the kind of serif font that screamed, "I charge $400 an hour." They couldn't afford $400 an hour. They couldn't afford $4 an hour. But Sarah wasn't listening to that kind of logic anymore. She'd printed out 20 pages from Carlton's fake website and organized them in a 3-ring binder with color-coded tabs: green for checking, blue for savings, yellow for investments. "He'll see," Sarah said, merging onto 101. "A professional will see that the bank screwed up, not Dad." Heidi watched the office parks blur past. Every building looked the same, tinted glass and sad landscaping. She wondered how many of them housed people living in fake realities, printing fake documents, telling fake stories to their families every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Rossner's office was on the 9th floor of a building that tried too hard. Marble lobby, fountain that didn't work, security guard who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They rode the elevator in silence. Sarah clutched her binder. Heidi clutched her purse, which contained the real collection notices, the rotted, rain-damaged ones from the mailbox. The receptionist offered them coffee. Sarah accepted. Heidi didn't trust herself to hold a cup without dropping it. Rossner came out 12 minutes later. Mid-50s. Good suit. Handshake that lasted exactly the right amount of time, long enough to seem sincere, short enough to maintain professional distance. He led them into a conference room with a view of the parking lot. "Mrs. Wilkins, Ms. Wilkins, I'm very sorry for your loss." He sat down, folded his hands. "Sarah mentioned on the phone that you're experiencing some discrepancies with your late husband's accounts." "Not discrepancies," Sarah said. She opened the binder, slid it across the table. "Fraud. Wells Fargo is claiming my father's accounts are empty, but as you can see here, that's impossible. These are official statements showing balances totaling over $1.2 million. Rossner put on reading glasses, started flipping through the pages. His expression stayed neutral. Professional poker face. He lingered on one page, then another. Pulled out his phone and took a picture of a statement. "May I ask where you obtained these documents?" "From my father's files. He kept meticulous records." "And you verified these with the bank directly?" "The bank won't talk to us," Sarah said. Her voice had an edge now, desperation sharpening into aggression. "They hung up on my mother. That's why we're here. We need someone who can force them to acknowledge their error." Rossner set down the binder, took off his glasses, cleaned them with a cloth from his pocket, even though they didn't look dirty. "Miss Wilkins, I need to ask you a direct question, and I need you to answer honestly." "Of course." "Did your father own printing equipment? Specifically commercial-grade printing equipment?" The air went out of the room. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. "Why would you... What does that have to do with..." "The watermarks are wrong," Rossner said quietly. "Wells Fargo changed their security paper supplier in 2023. These documents show the old watermark pattern. The old watermark pattern looked like a chain-link fence if you held it up to light." Heidi had noticed it once, years ago, when Carlton was explaining something about security features. He'd seemed proud. She'd thought it was weird that he knew so much about bank paper. She didn't think it was weird anymore. Rossner hadn't thrown them out. That surprised Heidi. Instead, he'd gotten very quiet, made some notes on a legal pad, and suggested they visit the bank immediately, with him present as a witness, not as their attorney. "I can't represent you in this," he'd said, "but I can stand there and make sure they don't intimidate you." They'd driven to the Wells Fargo branch on Coleman in Rossner's car. He had satellite radio, jazz station. Sarah cried in the back seat, while a saxophone pretended everything was sophisticated instead of falling apart. The bank manager's name was Denise Kozlowski. She had a handshake like a politician and an office that smelled like synthetic vanilla from one of those plug-in air fresheners. Sarah sat down across from her desk and immediately went on the offensive. "We need to discuss the fraudulent statements your institution has been sending to my mother." Kozlowski smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sorry, I don't have much information without an account number." "Can you provide that?" Sarah recited it from memory. 13 digits. She'd probably checked that fake website 100 times, drilling the number into her brain. Kozlowski typed, waited. Her smile evaporated. "I see. Mrs. Wilkins, can you confirm your husband's full name and social security number for verification?" Heidi provided both. More typing. Kozlowski's jaw tightened. She angled her monitor away from them. Not obvious, just a small adjustment that said, "You're not going to like this." "Mrs. Wilkins, this account was closed in 2014. "That's impossible," Sarah said. "I have statements from last month." "Then those statements didn't come from us." Kozlowski turned her monitor back around. The screen showed an account history that ended 12 years ago. Final balance, 010. Closure reason, owner request. Sarah leaned forward. "There has to be a mistake. My father had multiple accounts. Check the other account numbers." "I already did." Mr. Wilkins closed all his Wells Fargo accounts on the same day, October 8th, 2014. He withdrew the total balance in the form of a cashier's check for $847,000 made out to himself. Heidi felt something crack in her chest. Not her heart, something harder. The place where she'd been storing her capacity for denial. "Where did the check go?" she asked. "I don't have access to that information. Once it's cashed, it's cashed. But I can tell you it was deposited at..." Kozlowski checked another screen. "It was cashed at the Grayton Casino Cage on October 9th, 2014. Sarah stood up. "You're lying. You're covering up your institution's negligence. We have documentation." "Ms. Wilkins, your documentation is forged." Kozlowski's voice stayed level, professionally sympathetic. "I'm very sorry. This happens more than you'd think. Usually it's financial abuse, but in this case..." She trailed off. "In this case, what?" Heidi asked. "In this case, he was protecting you from the truth. The truth didn't need protecting." That's what Heidi wanted to say, but her mouth wouldn't work. Carlton had spent 12 years protecting her from the truth like it was a live grenade, and now she was standing in the blast radius, realizing the pin had been pulled since 2014. Sarah wouldn't sit down. She was pacing, 3 steps to the window, 3 steps back. Her heels made angry clicks on the tile. "There has to be something else. Dad wouldn't have gambled everything. He was too careful. Too..." "There is one more thing," Kozlowski said. She'd pulled up another screen. "Mr. Wilkins maintained a safety deposit box with us. Box 437. It wasn't closed with the accounts." Heidi's head snapped up. "He never mentioned a safety deposit box." He's been paying the annual fee. Last payment was, Kozlowski scrolled, September 1st of this year, 2 weeks before he died. Sarah stopped pacing. What's in it? I have no way of knowing. But you're listed as a cosigner, Mrs. Wilkins. You can access it whenever you'd like. 10 minutes later, Heidi was following Kozlowski into the vault. Sarah was right behind her, breathing too fast. Rossner had stayed in the lobby. This was family business now, he'd said, which was lawyer code for, I don't want to witness what's about to happen. The vault smelled like metal and old paper. Kozlowski used 2 keys, hers and Heidi's, to open box 437. She pulled out a long steel drawer and set it on the table in the private viewing room. Take as much time as you need, she said, and left. Sarah reached for the lid. Heidi grabbed her wrist. Wait. For what? I need a second. Heidi's heart was doing something arrhythmic. This was it. The last card. Whatever was in this box would either save them or bury them, and she wasn't ready for either outcome. Sarah lifted the lid anyway. Inside was a flash drive, silver, generic. The kind you could buy at CVS for $8. Next to it was a stack of plastic cards held together with a rubber band. Sarah picked them up. Players Club cards, casino loyalty cards, all from Grayton, all with Carlton's name embossed in gold letters, all marked Platinum Tier. Platinum Tier means you've lost at least $250,000, Sarah said. Her voice was flat, dead. I Googled it after I found that Venmo receipt. Heidi picked up the flash drive. It was heavier than it should be. Or maybe that was just her imagination assigning weight to things that couldn't be measured in grams. There's nothing else in here, Sarah said. She was checking the corners of the box like money might be hiding there. No gold, no bonds, no offshore account numbers, just this. Just a flash drive and a stack of cards proving Carlton had been very, very good at losing. We need to see what's on it, Heidi said. I don't want to. Neither do I. They went back to Heidi's house, Sarah's laptop, USB port. The click of the drive sliding in sounded like a door locking. One file on the drive, Final Will MP4. The door locking was the last sound in the room before Sarah double-clicked the file. Then Carlton's face filled the screen. He looked terrible. Thinner than Heidi remembered. Gray in a way that wasn't just hair color. His skin had that ash quality of someone who'd stopped sleeping months ago. He was sitting in the basement. The printer visible over his left shoulder. A glass of something amber on the desk in front of him. His hands were shaking. If you're watching this, I'm dead. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, tried again. And you found out. I'm sorry you had to find out. I wanted to fix it before, but I couldn't. I tried. God, I tried. Sarah made a sound, not a word, just air leaving her lungs. Carlton took a drink. Whiskey, probably. He wasn't a whiskey drinker. The money's gone, all of it. I lost it in 2014. One weekend, October 8th through 10th. I was up $500,000 on Friday night. Blackjack. I thought... He laughed. It sounded like choking. I thought I was smart. Thought I'd found a pattern in the dealer's shuffle. Heidi had been at a church retreat that weekend. Women's ministry trip to Monterey. Carlton had said he was staying home to watch a baseball playoff game. By Sunday night, I'd lost everything. The retirement accounts, the college fund, the house fund, $847,000. Carlton's eyes were wet. I couldn't tell you. You would have left me. Sarah would have, you both would have looked at me like I was a stranger. So I decided to fix it. I took out loans, quiet ones, from places that don't ask questions. Sarah paused the video. Loan sharks. He borrowed from loan sharks. Keep playing it, Heidi said. Carlton's frozen face stared at them. Sarah hit play. I was going to win it back. That was the plan. But the plan kept failing. So I'd borrow more. And the debt got bigger. And I realized I couldn't win it back, but I could. I could keep you from knowing. I could give you a few more years of thinking everything was okay. He picked up the glass, set it down without drinking. I built the website in 2016. Took me 4 months. The printer came later. By 2020, I had the whole system running. You never suspected. Neither of you. I was so careful. His voice filled with something that might have been pride. That made Heidi's stomach turn. The mortgages started defaulting in 2022. The credit cards maxed out in 2023. I've been juggling payment plans and forbearances, but it's not sustainable. By the time you see this, they'll probably be coming after the house, after everything. He wiped his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just wanted you to be proud of me. I wanted Sarah to think her dad was successful. I wanted you to feel secure. And the video cut off. Just stopped. Mid-sentence. The file corrupted, or maybe Carlton couldn't finish. The laptop screen went black. Sarah closed it. I'm going to be sick. She made it to the bathroom. Barely. Barely making it to the bathroom was a skill Heidi had learned too. In the 6 months since Carlton's video confession, she'd gotten good at timing, knowing exactly how long she had between the moment reality hit and the moment her body rejected it. The house was gone. Foreclosed in February. They'd had 30 days to pack up 42 years of accumulated life. Sarah had wanted to fight it, hire another lawyer, file for bankruptcy protection. Heidi had said no. You can't bankrupt your way out of the truth. The rental was a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex off Highway 9, 1,200 square feet, beige carpet, popcorn ceiling. The kind of place where you could hear your neighbor's television through the wall and smell their dinner cooking. Heidi was working part-time at a Target, cashier. 23 hours a week because 24 would qualify her for benefits, and they couldn't afford to pay her benefits. Sarah had moved in 3 weeks ago. Temporarily, she'd said, just until she figured things out. Her tech job had let her go. Cost-cutting measures, they'd called it. But Heidi suspected it had more to do with Sarah's performance tanking after she'd discovered her father wasn't a financial genius. He was a gambling addict who'd counterfeited documents for a decade. Tonight was Tuesday, 7 p.m. Heidi had made spaghetti, jar sauce, nothing special. They ate at a folding table because the dining room set had been sold to pay off one of Carlton's smaller debts, the one to a pawn shop in San Jose that had threatened legal action. I got a call back, Sarah said. She was twirling pasta but not eating it. For that marketing coordinator position, interviews Friday. That's good. It pays $48,000 before taxes. Sarah finally took a bite, chewed, swallowed like it hurt. I used to make 90. I used to make nothing, Heidi said. Now I make $14 an hour. We're trending up. Sarah laughed. Actually laughed. Real laughter this time. Not the manic kind from 6 months ago when the world was ending. This was smaller, tired, but genuine. You're making jokes about poverty. Dad would be horrified. Dad would be printing fake pay stubs to make us feel better. They both laughed at that. The neighbors probably heard through the wall. Let them. Heidi cleared the plates. Sarah washed them because they only had 6 and couldn't afford to run the dishwasher for such a small load. The kitchen window looked out at the parking lot. A kid was riding a bike in circles under the streetlight. His mother was watching from a balcony, smoking a cigarette. I don't miss it, Heidi said. The house? The lie. She dried a plate, put it in the cabinet. Being afraid every day that I'd wake up and realize I didn't understand my own life. That was exhausting. Sarah turned off the water. You want to know something awful? Always. I'm glad he's dead. Not because he's dead. Because he doesn't have to watch us live like this. He'd hate knowing we're okay with it. Heidi looked at her daughter. Really looked. Sarah's hair was pulled back. No makeup. Yoga pants from Target. Clearance section. She looked younger than she had 6 months ago. Less polished. More real. We're not just okay, Heidi said. We're free. If this made you check your own mailbox or question what you've been too afraid to verify, you're not alone. Stories like this live in the gap between what we're told and what's actually true. Subscribe if you want more of them, the kind that don't let you look away until the last sentence lands.